Hello, my name is Jeremy Gursky. Today is April 15th, 2016. I am here with Takia Rust, a former member of the U.S. National Guard. I would like to thank you for joining me today and also thank you for your service.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to start off by just finding out a little about yourself. So I was going to ask you about your background. I saw in your bio form that you grew up in Framingham. What was that like?
It was, I guess, same as anybody's childhood. I mean, I had my particular friends that I grew up with. I've been in Framingham since I was about 8. I was born in Guam because my mom's in the military, so I came over from there, and I've been in Framingham ever since. I have my little friends that I grew up with that I still talk to, and it was a normal childhood. It was.
Well, now I mentioned that you were born in Guam. That seems like an interesting story.
Yeah. I don't really know too much about it. I was 1 when I left, so I don't really remember anything about it. My mom was in the military. She was in the Navy, and that's where she was that's where she was stationed at the time she met my father. He was a contractor in Guam for the military, and she told me she loved his chocolate skin, and one thing led to another, and
well, there you
here
go. I mean, sometimes you never know what's going to attract you to somebody, but sometimes it can be just that one thing. Did they tell you, like, was it they both needed the military base?
Yes.
So they
He was doing contract,
like
yes.
that, and then they just fell in love, and there you go.
Pretty much.
So you ended up being a United States citizen too, just because they were both,
Yes.
even though you were born there?
Yes.
So that's good. So what was it like growing up in Framingham? What type of school did you go to? Like,
I went to I went to public schools, so it wasn't anything special. I was a pretty good kid for the most part. You know, every kid has their moments.
Exactly. Party in the woods and stuff.
No, I wish. My mom was very strict. Military. So I had a very, very strict upbringing. So I wasn't really allowed to go out. Wasn't allowed to have sleepovers. Wasn't allowed to date. So I wouldn't say necessarily that I was sheltered, but I didn't have the fullest childhood, I guess, that all my other friends were having. So,
I mean, did that help influence your idea of going to the military, or was it the influence from your family? I mean, was there a lot of people in the background that like helped you do it, or would you come to your own conclusion on your own?
It was a mixture of a little bit of everything. I was very proud of the fact my grandfather was a Green Beret. With my mom being in the military, my dad, it just kind of felt like that's what I needed to do. My mom was very much against it. She did not want me to go into the military. Her reasoning behind it was she didn't want me to go through what she had to go through. Being an African American woman in the 70s and 80s, you know, she went through a lot of struggles. So she didn't want me to have to go through what she went through, basically. But I tried to explain to her, you know, it's a new day and age. I mean, I probably will still face some adversity, but it's not going to be as severe.
Even in regular society now.
Exactly. So I wanted to join when I was 17, but she wouldn't allow it because she had to sign for me. So I said, we kind of butted heads, and I said, fine, I'll just win it. As soon as I turned 18, graduated high school, I signed for myself, and that was the end of that story.
Was there a reason why you chose the National Guard, or?
Because I wasn't really sure. I knew I wanted to do some form of military. I just wasn't sure how extensive I wanted it to be. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go full metal jacket or if I just kind of wanted to. So I kind of picked the National Guard because it was part-time, so I could get a feeler for it, see if it was something that was going to work for me. And then I just never ended up leaving.
This is what seems to happen to us. Like, they get used to the routine.
I got stuck in the routine. And
did that influence your decision to go to school afterwards, or?
I initially, it was a helping factor that the National Guard paid for school. So my plan had been to go to school after basic training. I ended up having my son, so that kind of delayed the plans. Then I ended up getting deployed, so that pushed it back even further. When I came back from my first deployment, I put in to become a police officer. Then that fell through because I ended up getting deployed again. So it kind of just, everything kind of just got bumped back and back. This was the first chance I was able to take advantage of schooling, so I decided why not.
Oh, well, I'm just going to take it back a little bit. Kind of got to the end of the story.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's perfectly fine. So you said you were 18 when you enlisted, but you
Yes.
wanted to enlist early. And your mom was against it?
Yeah.
The only reason was because she was afraid of the different like adversities you'd have to
Yeah.
face in there. Was there any other reason for it? I mean, her herself being in the military, you think
That's
that she
the
would...
reason she gave me. So I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's, I mean, I can understand, but I don't know if that's the only reason.
How
But
did your father feel about it?
my father,
Completely against it? Or?
well, my father's not really in my life. He left when I was 4.
So-
But I still, like, I actually called him to let him know my plans. I called him to let him know he had a grandson, and I called him to let him know that I planned on joining the military, and you know that I was in the military because at this point I was already in. And he pretty much blew up on me. Why the f would you do that? That's the stupidest thing I've ever. So that was the last conversation I had with him for another 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
So he was against it as well.
I mean, it seems like everything worked out for you. I mean,
Yeah.
you seem like a very well put together woman, and you have going to school to be a nurse and stuff like that. Was there any of the? How was the training? Did you have a different training for being in the National Guard than the military, or was it the same exact?
I think that's where everybody gets a little confused because, like, we went through the whole. You guys are weekend warriors. You guys aren't cut like regular Army and Marines. When that's not the case at all. We go to basic training and learn the same thing. We train with Marines and Army, and we go through the same basic training. And you know, the only time we get separated is when we branch off to do our separate
Different
job
jobs.
qualifications. But that whole weekend warrior thing, I found it actually at some points would really piss me off because I bleed the same way a Marine does, the way a naval officer does. You know what I mean? It's just petty to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I brought it up.
Yeah,
I know
it's
that you guys go through
really
the same
petty
training,
because
but-
come to find out, my unit, my National Guard unit, was actually deployed more than the regular Army unit. So I'm just like, if we're weekend warriors, why are we over there doing your
More
job?
done than anyone
You know what I
else, yeah.
mean? So it just,
What was your specific job in the military?
I was a transportation. I was 88 mic truck driver.
Did you just do that alone? Did you see any?
Yeah, I just did transportation. I wanted to kind of branch out and go off and do different schooling. I was going to do supply, but I guess you could say the road was calling me. I couldn't stand just staying
Sitting
on the
around.
base and sitting
Do you
around.
have a truck driver's license because of that, or?
I was told I could, but with my son, it wasn't really
Yeah, you don't want to.
optimal for me to be on
I mean,
the road for a
that's
long.
one thing I was actually very curious about. Is there anything in the training that you feel like you can actually like transpose into real life?
Based on, what do you mean, like in life in general? or-
And life in general, skills for jobs, school, just communications, like anything that you think that it helped you in your regular life.
It definitely helped me know when to shut up. The discipline is a big thing for me. I was very hot-headed when I was younger. Attitude problem, like it was a little out of control. The military helped me reel it in and know what battles to fight and which ones to not fight. So I can say I got the discipline aspect from it, the respect. It just threw me way off. For the most part, I could say they gave me a lot. Besides my mom, however strict and ridiculous I thought she was, my mom and the military have shaped the woman I am today.
It's good to hear.
So,
I mean, so then if you had a chance to go back, you'd do the same?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't, if I didn't have my son, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd jump on as many deployments as I could.
So you really enjoyed it while you were out? I mean, kind of mixed bag.
It's a love-hate relationship for me.
relationship. Yeah.
It's more, not that I enjoyed the deployments, I enjoyed
the camaraderie.
the camaraderie and the feeling of being needed. Like I was important, that I was doing something that was beneficial not just to myself but for everybody. So I still actually struggle with that to this day. Like I suffer from depression. I have a lot of things going on that I feel like is because I've lost. I feel like I've lost something since getting out. I don't feel like I'm a part of anything anymore, I guess is the best way I can put it. So I kind of feel like I'm just going through the motions now.
So has that been the hardest transition going to school, is like not feeling like you're part of it?
Yeah, that, because I'm not the first one to open up. I won't approach you. I don't easily just talk to people. I'm very closed off. The most comfortable I felt so far in my path at Salem State has been in my veterans classes.
And what was?
In my veterans classes.
Veterans classes, the ones you're with people?
Yeah, where I'm with like people, because I know regardless of where we're from, we can relate to each other at least on some level. You know what I mean? And they're all around my age. Like I'm 32, so most of my classes I'm with 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds.
I'm 29. I had the same
so
problem.
It's just
like,
there's not really a connection there.
Like every time I'm in a class lately, someone's like, "I'm 19." I'm like,
yeah, and I'm like, oh, did I do my homework from yesterday?
Like,
yeah.
I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I forgot to take the trash out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the other day I was talking about how I got in a car accident and someone's like, "Oh, that sounds like an adult problem." And I was like, 17.
Yeah.
But do you feel like the training they gave you did prepare you for when you were deployed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I actually got a lot of training for stuff that had nothing to do with me. Majority of my training, like I got trained in hand-to-hand combat, kicking indoors, which is infantry grunt work. I was a truck driver. Our SOP was to never get out of our vehicle. Our vehicle was our shelter. So if we came under attack, it was up armored. Our vehicles were up armored, so they were basically the safest place for us to be in. So me training to kick in doors and bayonet people, and it was just, for me, I kind of, okay, why is this? But then when I was deployed and we did come in contact with, I'm like, oh, good thing they trained me how to do that, because if I have to throw rocks, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like you're saying, you were always usually protected in the car. Did you ever see any like active conflicts or anything like that? So you're in conflict zones and things like that?
Yeah.
So was the only job you had was just the truck driving? Did you meet any of the people where you were there? Did you have any communications with them? Or was it just like basically just drive places and drop people off?
Mainly I wasn't a transporter of people. It was a transporter of supplies, so I would run missions from our base to different parts of the country, delivering supplies to wherever the soldiers needed it. So it could have been anything, to be honest with you. It was from as simple as toilet paper to Doritos to ammo. And you know what I mean? So it didn't matter. We just opened up the truck and...
You're probably everyone's favorite, right? When you pull in, you got all the Doritos, toilet paper.
Depends on what we're carrying.
I get all the heavy stuff and it's like, oh.
I mean, we did barrier missions, like... And it wasn't just trucks. I was a driver. So get in and drive it. But I didn't learn how to drive that. You'll learn today. That's kind of like what went down. So every deployment,
I don't know how to drive stick myself.
Yeah, I don't know how to drive stick still.
Really?
I don't.
Wow.
Because luckily, by the time I got in, they were phasing out and bringing in automatic transmissions. So I was like, yes. They had a few old school, like 5 tons and stuff from back in like now. But I'm like, what is that? But other than
that's part of the museum. We keep that there to let people know.
It's just for show, you know.
What do you think was the Iraqis' people perspective for the war? I mean, you said you didn't really have very much contact with them.
We weren't really allowed. The only ones I really had contact with were the ones that lived on base, and that's because they were living on post, working there, doing whatever they're doing. They weren't allowed to leave the wire, so that was their home. So we were allowed to. I'm not gonna say allowed to, but you know, and we could pass then, hi, how you doing? We weren't allowed to have any actual relationships with them or, you know, take it too far, but once we were outside the wire, we weren't allowed to communicate with the nationals at all. But for the most part, the ones that lived on base were friendly enough. They tended to keep to themselves, at least for my second deployment. My first deployment, it was a free for all. Like they would come up to you and just and try to sell you alcohol. And one of them, a little 8-year-old, I'll never forget it. We were on our mission in the green zone, and we can't drive during the day. It was always nighttime missions. So we were waiting for the sun to set so we could leave out, and we were in front of Saddam in the stadium in the green zone. And this little, he couldn't have been more than 8. Him and his little brother rolled up, and we're all of us are kind of just standing around our trucks, shooting the shit, smoking butts and whatever. And he comes up and he looks at my battle buddy, and he's like, pointed to me, and I'm looking at him like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, yeah, she pretty. I trade? And I'm like, trade what? What are you talking about, little boy? So he gives him a bottle of Jack Daniels, and then it starts pulling on my arm, and I'm like, oh no, stop, like get away. And he kept going, so it kind of escalated to the point where if this little boy doesn't get away from me, something bad's gonna happen. So it took my platoon to come over, like, okay, enough. And somebody actually had to lock and load for him to get the point, like, this is not a game anymore, calm down. And his father ended up coming and beat the living crap out of him with a stick. So I guess he had snuck away from home. I don't even think his father and stolen alcohol from his shop or something. Because the father came out, beat the crap out of him with a stick, and dragged him home. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So my first tour, every day was something interesting.
Yeah, that's a kind of weird culture shock.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like what was he even trying to get from you?
That's what he had pills on him. I have no idea where he got the pills. He was trying to sell us roofies, and I'm like, okay, all right. At this point,
just shake your head and walk away. And I was asking you about the impressions of them, and that's just a very different type of mixed bag of things from them.
Yeah, I got a lot of for the most part, a lot of them were very fun and outgoing. I have pictures with some of them on mission. They were proud to be with us, and then you had your few that were just very standoffish. They would never make eye contact with you. So I kind of got a mix. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then it was a lot of culture shock for me because I'm not used to seeing 2 men in a truck as I'm walking by, having relations. Yeah. So out in the open, it was like a normal thing. So I mean, it was a big culture shock for me. But for the most part, I don't really have anything bad to say about them. They're just.
Well, your perspective of the war before you went in, did it change? Like, what did you think before you went there?
To be honest with you, I didn't really have that big of an opinion. I was more, when I was younger, really focused on myself. It was all about sports for me, so I didn't really have...
What'd you play?
Basketball. I wasn't worried about what was going on outside the world, because if it didn't directly affect me, I wasn't, I didn't really care.
Kid, yeah.
It wasn't until 9/11 that I started paying attention, and that was actually...
Do you want to talk about where you were, what happened during 9/11? Do you remember?
I was in high school, and that was actually one of the deciding factors on joining the military, because I felt like it wasn't fair. All those people that died, and for what? I didn't necessarily agree with war, but my thought process back then was, which is totally funny because I don't agree with myself now, but my thought process back then was it was a necessary evil. I was in high school. I was actually in history class when the first plane hit. And I remember it kind of just went from a normal school day to chaos. Everything kind of just shut down. TVs were being rolled into the rooms. News was being put on.
It's my freshman year too, same.
Yeah, so it was just kind of like, wow. You know what I mean? I remember thinking, I'm so selfish. You know what I mean?
Didn't even know I was in 9th grade, didn't even know what the World Trade Center was.
Yep.
Like, I had somebody come run into my classroom and be like, the World Trade Center just got hit. And I was just like, what's the World Trade Center?
Yep. I felt so selfish because I had A couple of teachers ended up leaving because they had family members.
My favorite teacher lost his son.
Yep. And there was people running through the hallways crying because they had family in there. It was just a very humbling experience, I guess. It made me realize that it's bigger than me. You know what I mean?
So is that the reason why you went in for like?
That's the core
the
reason. Yeah.
I mean,
that's the core reason.
That's what I always try to tell people. That's what soldiers are doing. They're not out there to, like, most people for some reason get in their head that they're killers or like this thing, but they're people out there trying to protect our country and to save us. And like, I always very much value the military because I think so many people don't. And I think it's one of the worst things that people in this country do is they don't understand that it's the politicians that create the problems, not the soldiers. What do you miss most about being over there?
Definitely the camaraderie.
You still have some good friends?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They'll be my friends for life. They'll be my family for life. They're not friends to me, they're family. I mean, when you've lived in a hot zone with somebody for 15 months and, you know, every day you have to say a prayer hoping that today is not the day, or, you know, knowing that the person standing next to you would lay their life down for you the same way, and even though, you know what I mean, you guys just met. So for me, it's a family. It's not, I to this day would die for them.
Does any one of them live local? Do you get to see them often?
I mean, I don't get to see them as often because, like I said, now the majority of my platoon is out. They got tired of it, and you know, there was a lot of, for me, why I got out is because of the politics. It just became too political. It stopped being about, you know, the mission, and it started being about whose lips on whose ass.
Yeah.
And I am not gonna jeopardize myself like that. I was an E4 for 10 years. I never got promoted, and that was fine with me because I knew I wasn't I never was not myself. I wasn't going to jeopardize who I am to please somebody else. So I was fine with everybody's like, wow, 10 years, you never got, because it was my choice. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna.
You love a job, why? Like, especially if you don't.
And we were called the E4 Mafia, so like we had just enough responsibility, but not enough to where we had to report to, you know, and kiss butt and all that.
Yeah.
So I was happy where I was at.
Oh, that's good. What did you miss most when you were over there? I mean, I know at one point about your son, but.
Yeah, well, that's a given. But now that I'm home, honestly, I miss the feeling of freedom. And I guess that's kind of funny because the military, you're told what to do, when to do it. But I guess the lack of responsibility. All I really had to worry about was myself and, you know, if I'm on a mission, getting to point. Exactly. Now that I'm home, it's like still the world feels like it's crashing down on me. Now I have homework, now I have school, now I have my son, my dogs, I have to take care of my house, what am I going to do for this, these bills. It just seems like it's never ending. Where I was deployed, you know, I wake up and you guys have chow from this time to this time, bet, okay, I'll be there. We're going on a mission this time to this time. Everything was just set. I knew what was going to happen. You know, well, obviously not attacks or anything like that, but I knew for the most part what was going on and what needed to be done.
So it's kind of funny that like the hardest transition with you was actually having your freedom taken away by having freedom.
Yeah. And everybody finds that hilarious, but that to me,
I mean,
that's how I feel. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you look at it even like with prisoners, it happens to prisoners where they get stuck to the routine and they don't want to get out of it. I mean, your son, part of your son's probably the thing that helps you the most, though, getting to see him every day, though, right?
That's debatable too. He's at an age where he's not helping.
How old is he now?
He's 11.
11? So he's starting to turn into a terror.
Yes. They say terrible twos, but that's not true at all because he was an angel.
I was originally planning on being a history teacher, high school history teacher, and everyone was like, "Oh, good thing you're not going to do middle school." I'm like, "Yeah, middle school kids."
Yeah. I don't know what people talk about terrible twos because he was the sweetest. Everybody loved him. He was so polite, and he never cried. He was an excellent child. And then he just hit adolescence, and I'm like, why are you alive? I can't deal with you.
So did you find it easier being a military mom or being a student mom?
I'm gonna have to say military mom because I had support back when I was in the military. I mean, my mom lived with me, and then when she didn't, my sister would come to help with my son. I have no real support system now. Everybody's moved. My mom lives in Florida. My sister is kind of doing her own thing. So everything is falling on me. Everything. I have to, which is why, like, and it's affecting school. I was doing fine the first semester, second semester, not so much. It's mainly my absences because with my medical issues that I'm dealing with, and then on top of it having to deal with my son and his outbursts and, tearing up at school, and it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
And especially when you're by yourself trying to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds it, but
Yeah.
I mean, well, you seem like a very strong woman, and I think you'll definitely make it through it.
Trying.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, but I'm pretty sure your son probably appreciates it more than you realize too. I mean, that's what most parents always go through.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about now and how much I appreciate everything my dad did for me.
Oh, yeah.
But it's difficult. How did you feel about being a woman in combat? Did you ever see combat? Was that any different? Did they treat you any different when you were doing it, or was it
I can say no. My platoon was amazing. I had.
So the worries about your mom, afraid of you being treated differently for being a woman?
That's the thing. My platoon wasn't originally my platoon. I went through the exact adversity that my mom had talked about. There was a female E6, Caucasian, who just had it out for me. I couldn't even breathe the right way without her jumping through my skin. And this went on, it started my first deployment back in 06. It went from MOB site, carried all the way into the deployment. Bless you. Bless you. Towards the end of our MOB, which is like our pretty much ground zero before we touch boots on ground and wherever we're going, it came to a head where I actually locked and loaded, and I was going to cause bodily harm to her because she just wouldn't let up.
Yeah.
It was every day,
you can't be in a platoon with somebody like that.
and it was just non-stop. Every day I was being berated, being told I couldn't go eat with certain people.
Was she like higher up
She was
than you?
E6.
So she was a step above
So
you.
it's not like I could just say, screw you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had to follow my chain of command,
Exactly.
and even that wasn't working.
Yeah.
So when it all finally came to a head, they decided it'd be best to switch my platoon. So I went from first platoon to second platoon, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. The platoon, it was 90% males. I think I was one out of three females in that platoon. But they were so welcoming.
Treat you like a little sister.
Yes, it's the moment I got switched over. I mean, because I knew them all in passing because we're all in the same company.
Yeah.
But none of us really had like that close knit relationship. But the day they said, this is Specialist Rush, she's transferring, it was just open arms from there on out. They, would make sure I had a child, make sure, everything. And we've been a family ever since.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They
It's good to
made
hear that.
the rest of the deployment
Was
so much
it really
easier.
difficult to change platoon? I mean, did you have to
No.
complain a lot or anything like that, or is it just the
To change platoons, they actually made the choice to do it because I had asked prior. And they said I was making a big deal out of it, that it wasn't as bad as I was saying it was, until I finally locked and loaded and everything came to a head and they realized, okay, maybe we kind of need to regulate the situation before we have some...
I mean, I've heard of other incidents where people got in like a lot of trouble for that type of stuff, so it's good they actually took care of you and understood that it wasn't your fault.
And that's the thing, I knew I wasn't, well, at the time I had literally just blacked out. That's why I wasn't really thinking about anything I was doing. But
Rage.
I didn't end up getting in trouble because all they had to do was look back at all the evidence.
Yeah. Well, that's
I had
good.
gone at my chain of command, I had witnesses, because it got to a point where anytime she asked to speak to me, I would have a battle buddy. Nope, I will not speak to you without a battle buddy. Because it was always a he said, she said type deal.
Yeah.
And because she was an E6 and I was an E4, they always took her word for it. So I smartened up and said, okay, now, well, no, I want to talk to you in private. No, absolutely not. If you would like to speak to me, you're going to need a battle buddy.
That's a good thing, yeah.
So
that's fine,
that saved my butt.
Well, that's good. And so you were saying that being switched to that platoon just completely changed everything for you?
It changed everything for me. I'll never forget them. I'll never forget what they did for me. I'll never forget their acceptance. I never had an issue race-wise since
awesome.
then.
Is there any like specific like really really happy memories that you want to share about like being with that platoon, like something that funny or anything like that you?
Well, I'm just an out of control person, so I really wouldn't be able to name all of them. Every day was a circus for us. Like that's just my platoon. We just made everything because all you can really do is laugh.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? So we go out on missions, and a couple of the guys in my platoon built surround sounds on our trucks, so we'd be rolling down the street blaring "Let the bodies!" Like, we were just out of control. Like it was always a good day. It was always a laugh for us.
Well,
so I can't really pinpoint one thing, because like I said, literally they made my existence.
I mean that's good because most people I've heard from were super like bored in Iraq.
Oh
and
no,
nothing to do,
we
so.
always every day was a new adventure. Every day was
most of the interviews I've seen and people I've talked to are always just like all I had to do was like I had so much downtime, I had to figure out something to do to keep my mind going.
I wish. I don't even know what downtime is. Like we'd be out like on missions 14, 16 hours, come back, be down for 4 or 5, right back up to do it again.
Oh, you're saying you did most of your missions at night. Did you notice that had a really hard transition coming back? Like, because most of during the day
I don't
and
sleep.
everything? Yeah.
I still haven't slept.
I mean, I'm a very night owl person myself, but I have a hard time.
And I used to be too, but now it's to the extreme. Like I don't sleep, and you know it's funny because it's a trigger for the migraines. So, like I woke up, I didn't go to sleep last night, and I looked at the clock. I'm like, oh god, I gotta get up for school. I didn't even realize I ended up dozing off. I don't know at what point I did. Next thing I know, it's 7 o'clock. I'm like, oh crap, I missed my class. So that's great. So my second class was canceled, but this is just like an ongoing thing for me. And my last deployment was 2010. So it's just like.
Do you ever try any like yoga, meditation, or stress management? Like
I've tried it all.
Tried it all.
Meditation, yoga, stress relief. They want me to do acupuncture. I've tried placebo pills. I've tried sleep aid pills. And what happens with the sleep aid pills? I've been through like 4 or 5 of them.
They make you too drowsy.
They make me too drowsy to function during the day. Or if I take them earlier, like it was to the point where I would have to take them like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so that by the time they kicked in, because my body naturally fights it. I don't know why, but I'll take it and I'm like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, but this is a good show. And then literally 10 minutes later, I'm not tired anymore. So I would have to take it early enough, and then what happened was I'd fall asleep. It never helped me stay asleep. I literally, a 4-hour sleep is 8 hours to me. I just don't sleep. And I've gone 3 days to the point where I started hallucinating.
Yeah.
That I just, and then I crashed and I was down for like 2 days. But it's not healthy for me because, you know, my son is kind of just looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? You know what I mean? So I kind of.
Have you tried any sleep studies or anything like that?
Yep.
Or?
I've been through sleep study, and they said my brain activity is off the charts. Like, that's why. So they want me to try some like calming techniques, because my issue is I've because of everything I've got going on, I've developed slight OCD. So my psychiatrist says that it's the loss of control. And because I was so used to being overseas and everything was, you know, and now being back home, because I feel like my world is kind of just in chaos, that whenever I feel like my house, everything, if you move something, we're gonna fight. Like, because especially if I go to look for it and it's not where I put it, I literally get so angry. And it's insane how angry I get. And it's even at the grocery store, like everything gets lined up on the checkout belt, and if somebody puts something, like, why would you do that? Fix it. I'm very anal when it, and she said it's because of the control issues.
Actually, I had the same issue when I was a kid. I grew up in a very like rough household. My dad was an alcoholic, my mom was a heroin addict, and so like I developed OCD when I was a kid because I had no control. And so, like, the thing that I ended up having to do was break that. Yeah. So, like, the thing I did was I constantly wash my hands. Yeah. And I would, like, turn the light on a certain amount of times because I felt like if I didn't, I'd die. And so, what you need to do is just break the cycle. It's hard.
That's trying to figure out how to break the cycle. Especially when you don't have the sleep.
You got to figure out what the cue is. And especially, like, if you don't have the sleep, you don't have as much control over your brain, and it just doesn't know.
And then I go to lay down and, like, I gotta take the trash out. I gotta do I love to read. But that's the thing. My mom's like, well, read a book. It'll put you to sleep.
Find something boring.
That's the thing. When I read,
Because I'm the same way. If I have something interesting, I'll read it forever. But if I find something like one of the teachers I had here sent me like this big book of like theories on teaching that I hated, and I thought it was the worst book ever. And I read it for like an hour and I passed out.
I've tried.
You tried?
My mom was like,
Maybe I should record one of my lectures for you.
actually, that wouldn't help because I never used to be into history, but excuse me, but. Now, I guess because I'm older and I have more, you know what I mean? A lot of things are...
Military formed history, so I mean...
Yeah, so everything is like... A lot of things are... Because like biology, I hated science. Now, I'm so into it. Like everything, I guess because I'm older and have been through so much, everything is like, oh, I want more, I want more, I want... You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So my mom's like, try reading the Bible, Takia. Read the Bible. Nobody stays awake for the Bible. And she's the most spiritual person ever. She's like, I'm telling you, after... I read like 8 chapters and I'm still going. And I'm like, okay, this is not helping. So it's to the point where I have to lay down in my room, in the dark, everything shut off. I can't have lights on even downstairs because it's a distraction.
Did you notice, because I know you said you've been deployed a couple times, mm-hmm. Did you notice that the problem with sleeping only happens when you're here, or do you sleep better when you're over there?
Oh no, definitely not while I'm over there. Definitely it's the same because being in transportation, even when we have downtime, it's not really downtime because we're always on call. Mm-hmm. So it could be we learned how to, I forget what my battle buddies used to call it, but it was pretty much power napping. We learned to just wherever we could. But because like my first deployment, everything was very chaotic. It was always mortars and always so even when you did find a chance to sleep, you never really got the good sleep because you're always like waiting for the next bomb, the next shoe to drop. You know what I mean?
I mean, it seems like that just conditioned you to have these problems.
And that's exactly why. That's exactly what happened because I never had a problem sleeping before ever.
Yeah, I'm a rock myself. And
I used to sleep through. My mom's like, you could sleep through a tornado. I used to sleep so hard, and now I just. You sneeze in the next room.
Because I used to have problems sleeping when I was a kid, so like I developed a lot of different like ways to help myself sleep. Every once in a while, though, I'll be up for 3 days. So I know the exact same problem. Just
and it's killing me. It literally is breaking me down because the migraines, and then I stop eating because of the migraines, and so that's why I've actually gained so much weight because what happens is I binge. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'll go 3-4 days without eating, and then I'll just tear up everything in sight. Yeah. And the doctor's like, are you crazy? That's extremely not healthy for you. Like, it's going to make you gain weight and you're not going to be able to lose it. So I'm kind of just damned if I do, damned if I don't.
I wish my yoga teacher still lived in this area because he's one of the reasons why I got good at sleeping, because he taught me how to control my breath before I go to sleep and how to like control my mind and produce lucid dreaming. So it was actually easier for me to sleep because I practiced lucid dreaming techniques. So it was always, I was preparing myself to have fun when I was dreaming. So it turned into an experience where I really enjoyed it. Something you can look into. There's a lot of different lucid dreaming techniques to teach you how to like fall asleep and gain control of dreams, and it also lets you block everything out of your outside, and it might get you to sleep dream.
Well, I'm on medication to not dream.
To not dream?
Yeah, I get nightmares, and it's to the point where I wake up out of my sleep distraught. Yeah. And I can't live like that anymore. Yeah. So I actually have inhibitors that
stop the dreaming.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm ready to go off those yet.
Yeah, that's probably it's just something to look into. I mean, it's just something that helped me with my dreaming problems because like the main problem with my sleeping was that like I'd just go to these weird, insane dreams that made no sense. Like I'd be in some other world, like demons were chasing me. How's your experience been so far at Salem State?
I can't complain really. I've had excellent professors. Like I said, obviously the vet classes are a favorite for me because I feel like that's where I can most be myself. My other classes, like I said, I'm not quick to jump in. So like they'll be okay, now get in groups, and I'm just kind of like, and everybody's like already got their cliques and everything, so I'm kind of just.
Tell you the truth, do you think that's more of like an age difference, or are you?
I think it's both. I think it's an age difference, and I think I just problem, don't connect.
I'm 29. And like I see all these little kids,
and the stuff they talk about just grates on my brain. So it for me, I know I'm like not making a real effort. Yeah. But I figure they're not gonna advance my career in any way. So to me, it doesn't really matter.
And it's kind of understandable. It's kind of how I felt lately in my classes, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You know, with the age difference. Like, I just had to do a report with 3 other people, and I did the entire report because they just didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. I have a presentation coming up for my sociology class, and I've been doing the research on my own. There's like 4 or 5 other people in the group. Oh well.
Yeah. What made you decide to come to Salem State?
I was just talking about that yesterday. I initially had applied to like 10 different schools. But because I had no college background, majority of the letters I received back were you need at least 12 credits in liberal arts and this and that before, and then reapply, and then we'll be able to accept you. Salem State accepted me outright.
All right.
So out of 10 schools, and I was the only one to say, yeah, we can take you right away. I kind of jumped on it. Because everybody's like, what, you live in Framingham? Why the heck? Well, when your options are 1,
Yeah,
that's the one you take.
How do you get every day? Do you take the train or drive?
No, I drive.
Drive? Yeah. My brother actually works in Framingham, and he's always talking about how bad the commute is, so I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
He works at this Staples.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He's like, he lives in Cambridge now, but when he lived here, I think it was like 2 hours in the morning because of traffic.
Oh, wow. No, not for me. I get here in like 30, 45 minutes latest.
Good. Like, he actually used to, like, he'd have to, because he had to be at work at 7. If he left at 6, he'd get there at 8 because of traffic. And so now he would, like, he'd lose at 5 to get there at like 6 to be
Wow. No, I get up at 5, and then I have to be out of the house by 6:30, the latest, to avoid traffic. But even if I do hit traffic, it's not that bad.
That's good. I mean, it's probably because you're going out of Boston.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, was there any like schools near that area that you were hoping to get to?
Yeah, I applied to Boston University. I applied to Worcester, 2 schools in Worcester. I applied to Regis College. I applied to UMass, Boston, and Lowell.
I thought you'd probably want to come here because of the nursing programs.
Well, I did because of nursing, and then I found out that Salem has a top-rated nursing program.
Oh yeah, one of the best in the state. Yeah.
So I said, oh, and they accepted me outright. There I go.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anything specifically that made you want to become a labor delivery nurse? Just love babies.
Well, yeah, when I can give them back. To be honest with you, because like I said, I've always wanted to be a cop. I went out, took the test, I passed, made it to the interview, made it to a second interview. But then I realized with everything I have going on within me, I don't think it's detrimental to any type of healing process for me to continue in a career path that's going to involve death and, all that. So I had to think what would be the bipolar opposite of that. Bringing life into the world. So I said, why not do that? I love babies. I love the science and the amazingness of watching a woman birth a human being. It just doesn't get any more ethereal than that. So I figured, why not?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it'd be great for you.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, completely different path than when you lead them. How are the classes going so far in that? Pretty well? I mean, you said this is your
This is my second, yeah.
So you're technically still a freshman? Or?
Yeah. So far, so good. If I can just get my outside life together, because it's affecting my school life.
I mean, that's one of the things that some teachers don't seem to understand is that people have lives other than school.
So, like, I'm still trying though.
Yeah, I had to drop a class this semester just because my teacher was giving me like not only 3 books to read a week, but like 600 pages worth of stuff to read. I'm like, I gotta work and things I gotta do, and like I have bills to pay. But so, does it feel weird being back in school, or you're saying you're really excited about it? Is it hard, or because it's been so long since you've had to learn all the math and everything?
It's a little bit of all of that because, like I said, I had to take a math course. I'm like, what is this? I don't understand. This was like 12 years ago. Who does this? So I struggled through a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's any hard. I think it's actually easier now than when I was in school because I didn't really give a shit. I was only into sports, and that was my focus, and so I wasn't really...
More disciplined.
Yeah, I have more discipline now, and I want to get good grades, and I want to do better, and you know what I mean? So I think what's hardest for me is the not knowing, because, I came here for nursing, and I still haven't heard anything back from them, and it's just a process trying to get into the program. So I kind of feel like it's deflating me a little bit because I feel like I'm working so hard, but for what? Because I'm not even in the field that I want to be in yet, but I'm busting my ass and to the point where I'm scraping bone for what? So I'm kind of battling with that right now. But I have a lot of people. Well, it'll work out in the end, and just think about when you do get there. So I'm kind of just holding out.
Well,
like I started.
You're still a freshman too,
Yeah.
so you still have time to think.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to declare your major yet. I mean, it's good that you're looking to get in the program and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it's going well.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said. I mean, like we asked you earlier, how's it going? You said you're just living.
Yeah, just living.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's all you can do, but I don't know. I always try to make the day just a little bit better every day. Try to think of one thing that made it better than the last.
Yeah.
I try to be a very positive
yet.
person.
I think once this migraine leaves, that'll be the thing that will be the last.
Do you drink? Does caffeine help at all? Or?
Oh no, I can't drink coffee.
You drink coffee?
It's like sugar.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I can drink tea, so I don't know if tea has less caffeine than coffee, but it's only herbal tea. I can't drink regular tea.
Some of the different ones have different.
Yeah,
ones.
so I've been going. I don't know if you've ever heard of Teavana.
I love Teavana.
Yeah, I get all my tea through there.
My girlfriend works at Starbucks, and Starbucks just bought Teavana.
Yeah.
So she brings home all kinds of awesome teas all the time.
So I love Teavana.
Yeah, they got some really good stuff there.
Oh yeah.
I actually bought a really fancy teapot from there that I got for her.
Oh really?
Cast iron.
Yeah, I was thinking about thinking about doing one of those. I bought the filter system to like brew your own, and I got this that's what that is. It's the coconut ginger zibbin some crazy name, cockamamie name, but it tastes like heaven. So
it's called heaven tea.
Yep.
So, what would you think if your son wanted to enlist in the military?
I'm more open-minded than my parents were. I mean, in this day and age, you kind of have to be.
Yeah.
If that's what he wanted to do, I would support him because I know that's what I would have wanted. It's just to have support. Because at the end of the day, your children are going to make their mistakes, and that's how they're going to learn from them. You know what I mean? It's the same thing I had to go through. You can't baby your children forever. So if I just told you not to run out in the street and you decided to do it anyway, you get hit by a car, that sounds very out of control, but I just, you know what I mean? Like, I can only help guide you and then to where you need to be or where you should be in life. What you choose to do, those are your choices. So from there on out, after you make the choice, that's on you. I'll be here to help any way I can, but you're going to have to deal with the brunt of it. That's just my mentality on the matter.
He's a lucky little man. You know that. Is there anything you want to talk about, like, because it's getting to the end, anything you want to say specifically that you wanted to get out for people to hear? Anything about the military or anything about your past? Or
I guess the big thing is to not judge, because you don't know what somebody's been through. You haven't walked the shoes. You haven't walked in their shoes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of judgment passed on the military from people who
have no idea
what they're talking about. Only 1% of the population ends up joining the military. So how can you make a judgment on something you don't know or understand? So I guess what I would have to say is if there's something you want to know, ask before you throw out your ignorance.
Very true. Well, I want to just thank you very much for helping me out today.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
It was very, very excellent interviewing you, and it's very nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well. Thank you.